Tehachapi, the SP and Santa Fe era. This is a 2-hour and 38-minute presentation spanning over 30 years of great trains and scenes you can no longer see, many at locations that are now closed to the public. We bring the history of a great railfan location with maps and graphics to guide your understanding of operations and how the equipment and crews were challenged in this famous mountain pass. You will have a greater appreciation of Tehachapi and the crews that worked this mountain pass, plus the dedicated railfans that spent years of their lives here recording events that are fading into history. Our maps are all generated here in our graphics department for visual clarity on your screen. We explain the traffic patterns of these two different railroads that both used the line between Mojave and Bakersfield, California. Their different access to Tehachapi and the freight yards they used created a fascinating story we bring to your screen. See the beautiful Warbonnet power of the Santa Fe in its return to the rail scene by the late 1980s, and the Warbonnet units from an earlier time before 1970. Before this 1995 merger of the Santa Fe into the BNSF, and the 1996 merger of the Southern Pacific into the Union Pacific, there was a different way of railroading here. It left railfans with fond memories and a lasting impression that can't be matched with today's sanitized and efficient style of railroading. This is old school railroading filled with grit, sweat, and smoke, back when helper sets had engineers and both roads had vast fleets of older power that have since been vacated from the scene. This is actually 2 videos in one. First, we bring over an hour of pre-merger material shot over several years in the early to mid-90s. The older material brings back the 1980s and 1970s. Then, we peel back the calendar pages to the 60s. This presentation was all shot on Kodak color movie film, with its rich colors in an hour and 32-minute presentation. It could well stand on its own, but this double feature uses it with the 1990s section as a contrast in how things evolved before mergers and time itself changed so much. This was a time of mixed Santa Fe power in the old mostly blue and yellow bookend paint and the newer yellow bonnet style. First, we transition back in time to the late 70s when both roads were examining their thinking about locomotive purchases and what to do with aging fleets peppered with units needing rebuilding or scrapping. Remember when the SP still frequently washed their locomotives? We take a brief ride on the SP's San Joaquin Daylight just before the Amtrak era and the demise of passenger trains on Tehachapi forever. See an era when helper sets still used the EMD SD9 as the mainstay and reliable locomotive here in the Tehachapis. See GE's real U-boats. The U or Universal Series diesels and their history with the SP on this pass is a fascinating story. Look into those vintage years of the 1960s at neighboring locations that fed traffic into Tehachapi, places such as Cajon Pass. See vignettes from Colton Crossing, SP's Beaumont line, and plenty of locations in the Cajon Pass area famous for its scenery. Don't miss a section on the Santa Fe's mail train business with Alco PAs and EMD-F units in those splendid Warbonnet colors of red and silver. More maps are used to explain the 3 tracks in Cajon Pass, with Santa Fe's North and South Track strategy, plus the 1967 entry of the Southern Pacific to change their traffic routed into the Tehachapi Pass line. See Santa Fe's Barstow Yard and the old Waterman Cutoff that is now just a mark in the sand, replaced by different trackage in the 1970s. Learn the intertwined Barstow history of the Santa Fe and the SP of an earlier time. We also take a nice look at SP's huge Taylor Yard in the Los Angeles area and review how Tehachapi traffic was changed by its eventual downgrading. You will see the problems SP had with its U-Series diesels. SP was a demanding taskmaster with many severe lines that were the proving ground for locomotive development. GE eventually overcame this era and became #1 in the locomotive business. See Taylor Yard in 1957, when freight cars all had roof walks, and men that knew how to make effective use of them in directing hump yard and car switching operations. You will see things that work rule agreements and safety laws have changed forever. The 1967 building of the SP's Palmdale Cutoff line put the once busy Taylor Yard of the SP out of business. We'll explain how this routed Tehachapi traffic through Cajon Pass on new tracks laid by the SP. We bring some of the first trains on the new SP line. The last section of the show returns to the 1990s before the mergers to bring another lingering look at the Tehachapi Pass action, and we try to make sense of the history, the how and the why 2 railroads used the same mountain pass, and how the line was built. Learn the intertwined history of all the featured locations that are part of the greater Tehachapi story. See all the great power and vanished scenes of pre-merger railroading at its best. This is a giant slice of railroading with history, maps, narration, and most of all, wonderful trains. This is really 2 complete productions in one presentation, all this with great sound and stereo. Don't miss all the flying sand, vertical smoke, noise, and powerful action that made these 2 railroads once stand out as the most popular 2 out west.